Hello and welcome to another jungle tutorial, and in this one we are going to be looking at the strategies, tendencies, and champions that Jankos used to reach rank 1 on the EUW server. Unlike the last video, which was rank 1 on the NA achieved by a Hecarim one-trick pony, Jankos has been one of the best European junglers for many years now, so naturally his champion pool is going to be much more vast, but his most played on his main is Elise, followed by Elise, as well as the quintessential EU Karthus that we're seeing. So we are going to look at a brief overview of the things that he does every game to get a general idea of his playstyle, followed by a breakdown of one of his games. This will all include overviews of items and runes and so on, so you will be covered in that department as well. Hopefully with this information packet on his playstyle, you can use that in your own games to get some more wins and elevate your own jungling. And if you're going to elevate your jungling, you might as well do it in style. And for this video, quarterback.gg has once again partnered with us. We have a club, Virkayu's Yggdrasil, where you can earn trophies and quarterback coins by competing in challenges against other players within the club and in other clubs. And with these quarterback coins, you can unlock skins free just by competing in challenges. At the same time, you earn trophies for our club, and this week, the top 50 champions of the club will receive bonus quarterback coins to use on skins of their choice. So click the link in the description to join our club and compete against other creators for Odin. And on top of that, the top 3 champions for this week will also earn Emerald Green, Papercraft, and Nivea skins thanks to the League Partner Program. And now to begin our Jankos analysis, let's begin by analyzing the most basic form of jungling, and that's early jungle pathings. Now if you watched the most recent video I did on Saturday, you will have noticed that Jankos was included in that and also does a lot of those routes quite regularly. He's not so much concerned with vertical jungling, he wants to get ganks off in lanes as soon as possible, and to ensure that they are successful, he likes to have that level 3 power spike. So if you're interested in more in-depth discussions about that, go to that video after this one. However, in this video, you will see that he likes to start on the top side, whether that's on the blue buff or red buff, depending on the side of the map that he is on, because he wants to have the dragon control, but most importantly, lane pressure on the bottom side as early as he can. If there is nothing there, he does tend to look for invades, scuttles, perhaps a gank on the mid lane, or he will simply clear his jungle, head back to base, and then head back to the top side to look for ganks there. The key here is early ganks. And that means if you want to have ganks in every lane, you need to avoid vertical jungling and being tied to one side of the map. And so leaving some camps up on your initial clear to get their pressure off as soon as possible is important. However, you can see in this Elise example that he starts in the red buff, gets his level 3 by clearing the blue side camps, and then heads to bot lane for a gank. This is of course after taking the scuttle, and while they don't get kills, they do get the flash and summoners, which is very important for how he plays the next phase of the game. In this case, he does loop around just to be cheeky to see if maybe he can pick something up, but otherwise he goes back to base, will go to his Krugs to get those off the map, look top lane for a gank, move down the river to get vision to see if the enemy jungle's there, is a crab up or not. He'll eat his first raptor camp if they are up, however in this case they are down, no worries, doesn't matter. I can get the rubber banded wolves and grump, that means they have respawned with an elevated experience level, so it's important to get those off the map for your own experience boost. And then he can head back to the bottom lane again, and now flashless, healless, that's a free kill. Now the key there about the ganking is that he did repeat gank, he just took a loop around the map to see what else was happening, to have some pressure to show himself. Sometimes as a jungler, just showing yourself is important because you're in the minds of the laners. So while he does usually start on the top side of the map, if he is playing Karthus, you do like to have the blue buff early. That does leave you, if you do not vertical jungle, open to being counter jungled yourself and losing buffs, which he does in this example here. However, he doesn't use that as an excuse to tilt, to get annoyed. He knew playing Karthus against Elise that was most likely. However, that doesn't stop him from taking Krugs, getting level 4, and going and ganking in the mid lane and picking up a kill there. You contrast this with his Jarvan example where, again, he starts on the top side of the map, and why? You want to meet the enemy jungler on the bottom side, or if the enemy jungler isn't doing, the basic start at red without thinking route, they'll be somewhere else on the map and you get off a free gank. However, in this case, his decision to do blue, grump, wolves, red, get level 3, means that he's in prime position to punish an overgreeding bot lane, an overgreeding Elise, get the Vayne some kills, pick up his Krugs, and now you already have a huge lead. So that hopefully gives you a few examples, even if it's quick, an overview of his early routes and what his priorities are in terms of ganking, playing safe, or invading. And now on that note, the way he ganks isn't unrelenting, it's just measured, consistent, and evenly spread out, and is defined quite often by lane ganks. Whether it's Elise, Jarvan, does Karthus as all count as a lane gank? I'll count it as a lane gank. Or even Sylas. By keeping good track of the enemy jungler, he's able to find unique angles, even just regular angles, into ganking because he knows they're safe, he has good approaches, and as we've said before, lane ganks cannot be warded against unless the enemy jungler has done an excellent job of counter jungling and placing that vision, but you will find him regularly coming from behind, exploring the enemy jungle to see where he is, to track what camps are down, because if you know what camps are down, you know where the jungler isn't, which by extension means he can only be somewhere else, and that's not on that side of the map. And while this can look odd to continuously go into the jungle, go back, you know where he isn't, and that means you can path accordingly to get off counter ganks, to get off ganks of your own that give your team leads where the enemy jungler really has no idea what's going on. And how he translates this into objectives is very impressive. Oftentimes, if he is on the top side of the map conducting a gank, exploring, warding, and he sees the enemy collecting around the dragon, he will immediately head down there through the river and try and cut them off and try and salvage the situation. Now, why is this important? You can see from this example here, where he sees the enemy grouping around the dragon, sort of playing with the idea of taking it, and he moves on down from the top lane, and they're able to conduct a very nice fight, prey on the enemy's misposition and not expecting that kind of immediate rotation and defense of the dragon, win the fight, and then snag themselves a fire drake, which is excellent in solo queue. Not even because of the stats, just because when the enemy sees you got a fire drake, everyone tilts. And on that note, he does know how to use his ganks to translate to objectives. Obviously, a pro player who knows more about jungling than any of us combined obviously will be good at that, but as something I always point out to you guys, converting ganks into objectives is a basic principle. You can see how even the rank 1 player on a server from the jungle position is always looking at that. You've seen this via example. He gets a gank off from the bottom lane, he rotates mid to save his mid laner, gets a gank off there and another kill, shoves the wave. 2 minutes later, is back on the bottom lane. His bot lane now is ahead because that wasn't the first time he ganked before. Clears a control ward, knows that the enemy support is fiddlesticks and he is missing, heads up to the mid lane, gets off the counter gank, gets a kill, and now can secure their dragon, knowing they have lane prior in both lanes and the enemy support is dead. The whole goal is a lot of pressure, and in that Vi game it was back and forth between mid and bot, just floating between the lanes, clearing camps in between, circling around, and then securing those objectives. Now that's a lot of generalities and general principles. Let's look at a Sylas jungle game he did on his Smurf, which happens to be master tier. So you can see what a rank 1 jungler looks like against people that are still high elo, but whereby his knowledge and fluidity with which he plays can even at some of the highest tiers between him, Grandmaster, and Master show you some big differences. Which means if you can employ some of these strategies in your games, obviously he has the elevated mechanics. However, if you can apply some of these principles in your games, you are sure to win more than you will lose. And after all my talk about his clears starting on the top side, ganking bottom lane, let's look at this game where he uses Sylas, and instead of getting a leash, lets all his lanes go to their places, and if that's the case, you do want to start on the Raptor camp to, well, if you at least have talisman and abilities to maintain sustain, as well as clear speed. Now as he goes from Raptors to Red to Krugs, the enemy Rengar on the bottom lane, and we're going to watch the enemy jungler so you can see the differences between their particular playstyles. Now, both junglers do the whole thing where they clear the whole red side and then take a crab each. Now of course the natural jungle instinct is level 3 look for a gank. Unfortunately for the Rengar, it's against a Thresh, so that's not really great when you don't have any gap closers without a bush. So he shows up a little bit, but he's not able to get anything. And credit to Jankos, even though the GP was hard over pushing and putting himself in a bad position to actually get ganked, he did hit all his skill shots, followed up with the GP's flash with patience, not burning his own flash. And that's where mechanics comes in and hitting your skill shots. We're going to do a video on the importance of that very soon, because as you see here, his good mechanics and patience saved him a flash, which will be very useful in a second. So while the Rengar goes to steal his blue and thinks, hey, we're vertically jungling, Jankos on the Sylas goes all the way back to base, and then after a really weird tower dive by the blue team, I mean, overall it's pretty good I suppose, some were burned, yes the Rengar dies, but it's good for his bot lane. the Sylas heads straight down there, laying gank, and getting caught out a little bit, is still able to turn it nicely, pick the kill up, in turn get his blue buff back, and then flash out to safety. Aftershock and Sylas showing their balancedness. And here's a big difference. You see, the Rengar assumed that there'd be some kind of vertical jungling involved, because that's what everyone does, right? We take a crab each, we vertical jungle, and we camp a lane, right? That's what we do? Well, because of this assumption, he didn't even bother to check CS, track Sylas at all, and so doesn't even go to his blue buff to see if it's up. In fact, he doesn't check any of his camps to see if they're up. And while Sylas goes from the Gromp to the Wolves back to the top side of the map, getting basically all his camps, getting the second spawn of Raptors, the rubber banded ones, and Rengar sort of awkwardly tries to chase down a Zoe around the mid, and then goes and takes his second Krugs and second Raptors. And because of Sylas's decision to stay out after that bot lane fiasco, he's in prime position to control the rivers, because the Rengar has not cleared even one camp on his blue side. They're all level 1 camps. Which means this extended sequence, remember I've spoken about that many times, where you stay out longer than you think you need to, even if you might have enough gold for a buy, he probably didn't, and he could heal up himself with a smite, with his talisman, get that first RNG scuttle, and then go back to the top lane and get a gank off on the GP who he knows still has no flash. So you don't necessarily need to repeat gank immediately, but doing a full rotation of the map, you can do that in less than 5 minutes, which means if someone burns their flash on a gank, well, you know, you've got 5 minutes to get off another one. This means that after taking his Krug second spawn, he can go back to base before coming back to get that second red buff spawn, and at the same time that that's happening, the Rengar is only clearing his blue side for the first time, which means you're getting a lot of reduced XP, and it's kind of odd, you know, 5, 6 minutes, 7 minutes into the game to clear your camp for the first time, most notably if it's a buff. And now here we go again. I have camped the top lane so far. I have gotten off a nice gank in the bottom lane to save my bot from being too far behind. Let me go back to the top lane after my red buff, punish the GP even more. Now the Aatrox should be far enough ahead that I don't have to worry about him. This gives Sylas the ability to move straight down the mid lane towards the bottom lane. Why? Because it's kind of obvious at this stage that the Rengar is going to look to counter jungle if you show on the top side again. You will have noticed I put up the lasers showing the pings on the red buff as soon as it's spawned by Jankos, letting his team know that's where Rengar is. Now if you're Rengar and you notice, oh wait, we didn't do any vertical jungling and I just cleared my camps, I better go counter jungle to get some boosted XP from being behind. I hope you also noted how Sylas crosses the mid lane because the minion wave is pushed up towards the Kassadin. That means you don't need to walk all the way around, you can avoid vision just by staying at the back of the lane. Sometimes it's faster to go from A to B directly, just navigating the vision line of the minions, rather than walking all the way around and putting yourself in a bad position. The reason he is rotating down with the Zoe is because the bot lane is engaged in a 2v2, and the first team to rotate will pick up the kills and probably put themselves in a great position to win. Yes, the Thresh falls, but they're able to secure 2 kills, and Rengar gets some counter jungling done, but again, the momentum now is entirely with the Sylas' team because of the severe amount of lane pressure that has been provided. So, how do you close this out if you are the rank 1 jungler? It's pretty straightforward. Step 1, head back to top lane, get another gank off. That guy should be completely fine by himself now. Step 2, conduct your quintessential lane gank on the bottom lane, pick up some kills yourself. That's easy. Do we care that the Rengar is taking the Rift Herald? Do we care that the Rengar is taking our camps? Not really. Why? Because we just dominated both top and bottom lanes while clearing our camps smoothly in between. Because you have a huge experience lead now, go to the enemy jungle, venture, see what camps are up, get some deep vision, catch the enemy pike out, clear out their vision. Because you camp top lane so much, your top laner should be able to hold his own, which he does. Because you saw the enemy jungler on the top lane, take that dragon. Of course, this is after you knock down quite a few tower plates to give yourself and your ADC some extra gold also. And finally, once you finish that dragon, go to the bottom lane again, tower dive, pick up a kill and die, giving them a huge bounty because the game was just too easy in the first place. Now with this lead, it's just a case of going to the enemy jungle, taking those first towers, and slowly, methodically ending the game. But by slowly, methodically, I mean in 20 minutes it's done. So as I close, you'll see assorted clips of some more highlights as he closes this game out. I do have many videos on closing games out, including making a comeback, so go visit those if you're really concerned about the late game macro. But needless to say, if you have a game like this in the early phases, it should be obvious that you've completely outclassed the enemy jungler, your laners are ahead thanks to you, and now you can focus on those first towers. And because jungling is sort of technically kind of over as soon as you start grouping and moving around the map, there's not much more to discuss specifically to Jankos' jungling techniques. I hope you were able to learn a little bit about Jankos' jungling pool, see how advanced mechanics can help get you leads, see how mixing up your starting patterns and routes can really throw off junglers when they tend to expect something to happen, how continued lane presence, even if it's not one after the other, just simply by moving around the map and getting off those ganks either via lane or via abusing overpushing, can really set you up for free success. Don't forget to get those objectives, rotate to them quickly, and of course convert after you get kills. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, share, and comment if you did enjoy and learn something. It helps the video tremendously. Good luck answering the questions for the Papercraft and Nivea codes. Subscribe for more jungle videos coming very soon, and as always I will see you all in the next tutorial.